Welcome in the King Wales album review party. I'm so excited that we're doing this in person right
I think
now.
is this the first we've ever done on the same camera?
I think this is the
We've done
first
it in
time. Yeah.
person, but never once
Oh yes, because we were in
together.
person. Yeah, this is the first time we were able to figure out the being on the same camera. Um,
We found a space big enough to fit both of our heads and egos within one camera. And so I think that's impressive.
right, right. So today we're starting a new series called Grammy Snubs and Dubs, and we're going to be going through each category of the Grammys, like general, R&B, rap, hip hop, and talking about which songs that we think won, dubbed, or which songs that we think should have been considered as in a snub. And I'm very excited to announce our guest, a good friend of mine and a frequent collaborator, Kate Bankston. Welcome into the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. How are you doing? How's everything going? Got anything exciting going on?
So good, just gearing up for all these like holiday gigs. I think I have like 3 gigs next weekend and just staying busy out here in these streets. A lot of let it snow in the next few weeks.
Are
Right,
your
right.
gigs outdoors or are you gonna be in the warmth?
Oh, I'll be in the warmth. I'll just be
Okay.
playing like holiday music, like
Oh,
it'll
okay.
be like I think I have at brunch next Friday in Greensboro. I'm playing for like a tour of homes, like a holiday tour of homes
Oh,
in
okay.
Columbia next
Nice.
Sunday. Yeah, all up and down the East Coast.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That
And if
sounds
I'm not
exciting.
mistaken, you're from Columbia, correct? Or like that's the area where
Mhm.
you came from? Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. So get a chance to like kind of visit back home a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be good. I'm gonna try to see some people for dinner after. I have a so Sunday I'm down there, and then next week I'm like in Greensboro on Friday, and then Columbia on Saturday, and then back in Greensboro on
Oh my God.
Sunday. What day
All
is
over,
this?
all over the place.
Hey, Kate Bankston's in
Yeah.
hot commodity, guys. That's what we know. That's what we're hearing right here. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. So again, this is a special presentation we're gonna try to do of Grammy snubs and dubs. Our first category we're gonna do is general. So for this episode, we're only gonna be looking at the general category, so songs across all genres. And the first one is record of the year. So, does anyone in particular want to go first for their snubs and dubs, or yeah, no, no? Okay, all right. I guess
You
so.
you go
Yeah, I guess I am.
lead us off.
I
Lead us
guess
off.
yeah. Okay. So for my category of record of the year, based upon the nominees were Now and Then by the Beatles, Texas Hold'em by Beyonce, Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter, 360 by Charli XCX, Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish, Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar, Good Luck Babe by Chappell Roan, Fortnight by Taylor Swift, Post Malone. So a lot of great choices, but to me, my personal one that I would have chosen as the dub is Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. I think that song just kind of took over the summer when it came out. And I think based upon all these categories, I think I would choose that one as the most, because when I think of record of the year, I think of most like commercial friendly, kind of most vibey, what makes you kind of like want to dance. Like that's kind of goes into record of the year for me. And so that's what makes me put Espresso as my dub for that one by Sabrina Carpenter. As far as my snub, I don't necessarily think that it should have won. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. Like I have to listen to them back to back. But my snub is "Witchy" by Kate Trinata featuring Childish Gambino, because that might be my favorite song that came out this year.
You did love that song
I love
a
that
lot.
song so much.
A lot.
I listen to it over and over. Like it's top down music, it's dancing music, it's in the shower music, like whatever you want. Like I love that song so much, and the vocals and the beat and everything really makes it feel like a true record that's designed for dancing and partying and stuff like that. So my dub is Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter, and my snub is Witchy by Kate Trinata.
I might be with you that I think that's probably the best Childish Gambino song this year,
Yeah, I
and
think for
he
sure it
had a
is.
whole
Yeah.
album this year. But I think Witchy was still for me just a little bit better of a song
Yeah, yeah, I think
for
that.
him. But that's a good choice. I like that. I like that song. I doubt it has the reach for
Mhm.
that, and that's why it's not here. But I
Yeah,
do agree it's a very good song.
it did. I'll spoil it. It did get nominated for another category, so we'll get there when we get there. So at least it's represented maybe just not as widely. So Ty, what are your snubs and dubs for record of the year?
Ooh, okay. So my dub of this list right here, it really was not a hard choice at all. It was 360 by Charlie XCX. I think I had when we're recording this, we just got all our like Spotify or Apple Music like replays, and the month Brat came out, that is like my number one slot for that month.
Yeah.
I think it would have been the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 slot
If it was
if it was possible for one album to take all. And any representation from that album, even though it's not my favorite song from it, I think 360 is just such a bop. How you describe Espresso as being like an everything song, a song you just want to move and dance to. That's what 360 was for me. I can't get the little doom, 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 doom out of my head. It's like permanently ingrained, and I'm gonna be like just humming that 24/7 for the rest of my life now, and that's okay. My big snub, which I don't think has any chance of ever being on here, but it was Cinnamon Temple by Hiatus Coyote.
Oh, interesting.
I love that group so much.
Mhm.
And that is, I think, my favorite song of theirs ever. And it's so like rough and intense for them, like coming off, that it captivated me. And it goes through these like, it feels like movements throughout the track itself, and it's only like 4 minutes long, and it's so intense and it's loud and it's punky for this R&B focused group that it felt like it came out of left field. I can't stop listening to it, and for me it's changed the way I think a little bit of like how I perceive R&B artists a little more, of like, no, you don't have to be in this box. Like,
Yeah.
you do not have to just be the R&B people. Like, you don't have to just be the soul. Like, reach out into other genres, because you can make it work in ways that like punk rock artists couldn't make that song work. And so I loved it so much. I want everyone to listen to that song at least. So that's
Okay.
my pick.
All right. Fascinating. Fascinating. All right,
I
Kate.
have to ask.
Does. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Ty, are you a musician? I feel like I should have asked this at the beginning.
Oh, no. I'm gonna say no. I played guitar a lot in high school, and I have grown up and been raised around a lot of musicians. So I think through osmosis, I've kind of developed a lot of appreciation for it. But currently, no, I don't perform.
Mm-hmm.
Cool,
Honestly,
cool.
honestly,
I like
mostly for stage fright.
He is very
valid.
good at guitar, but it's nice because
No,
it
no,
creates a
no.
dynamic from like whenever we review albums and stuff, you have like the perspective of the consumer and the perspective of the creators, right? So like we create it's a really nice dichotomy to have. So I actually love it. Like it works very well because we see things
I'm
from
a
different angles.
I'm a big fan. I'm a fan of music first and foremost. I
Mhm.
do not play.
Love that. Well, I feel like the folks that give out the Michelin stars are like other chefs, but the people that put the restaurant on the radar to get a Michelin star are like the folks going to the restaurant. Like it's like the traffic, you know what I mean? So it's like you need, in order to get somebody in there to give you a Michelin star rating, you've
Right.
got to have enough traffic that you're like of note, you know?
Yeah.
Kate
Oh,
gets it. She
that's
gets
a
it.
man. I'm gonna steal that analogy like
Mhm.
going forward. I love that so much.
All right, Kate.
Um,
Does and
So
does.
I don't know if let me think about whether I have a snub. I think so. I appreciate you telling me that like your dub was based on like what's the biggest commercial slash dance record of the year. Because I think about it in a different way. I
Yeah.
have a friend who always talks about the importance of being able to surprise and delight your audience, like no matter what you're making. So you want to deliver a little bit of familiarity and a little bit of innovation. So for me, I think my dub would be the Chappell Roan Good Luck Babe, because I think
Okay.
she brings back a lot of this synthy 80s. She's like revived something the way that fashion this year has revived wide cut jeans, where she's in like, hey, does everyone remember these?
I like that.
So
Now,
she has
yeah.
like familiarity to it. I think there's also a lot of innovation in her vocal approach, which I'm sure was like producer cued. I'm sure somebody was in there like cueing, like, hey, we're gonna do an octave and a half separation, or like a 2 octave separation, and it's gonna be this innovative thing that you don't hear in pop music. Like Taylor Swift loves to live in this like midsection, and we've heard that for the last 15 years. So let's kind of surprise and delight. But really closely on the heels of that, Texas Hold'em, because I feel like that captured a wide segment of the population. And I feel like it innovated in that it brought kind of what you were talking about, Ty, where it's like, hey, genres don't have to be allocated in a very specific way, whether it's like by demographic or by the history of your discography. And I think when people do that cross-pollination in genres, it like opens up their music to a much broader listening audience. So probably Good Luck Babe, and then behind that, maybe Texas Hold'em. If I had a snub, and I feel like the same way where I'm like, this will never make it on this list, it probably would have been something off of Sam Henshaw's EP, the For Someone Who Isn't Here With Us, or Who Isn't With Us. I feel like he always writes to things that are happening sociologically in the world and makes it in a, puts it together in a really inviting way. So maybe that, but
Yeah, I didn't know Sam Henshaw dropped this year. I'll have to go check that out.
And I don't think I've ever heard of Sam Henshaw. So
okay.
I definitely, with the glowing recommendation, I'm absolutely gonna check it out. 100%.
You and my sister would get along. You should have joined us. We should have had you on for our episode of Cowboy Carter. You and my sister would get along very well because she absolutely loved that album.
Loved that album.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's really good.
All right. Well, I guess speaking of albums. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, good.
Do you listen to Alan Stone at all, Ty?
Alan Stone does not ring a bell.
I was just curious. I was gonna be like, he opens for this guy. So.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, speaking of albums, it's time for album of the year. Our snubs and dubs. So again, I'll go ahead with mine. The choices were New Blue Sun by André 3000, Cowboy Carter by Beyoncé, Short and Sweet by Sabrina Carpenter, Brat by Charli XCX, Djesse Volume 4 by Jacob Collier, Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish, Chappell Roan and the Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, and The Tortured Poets Department by Taylor Swift. So for me, when I first was looking at this category, I'll start with my snub because two of my favorite albums this year were Samurai by Lupe Fiasco and Ultra 85 by Logic. And I loved Ultra 85 so much. I feel like it should have definitely been considered for hip hop album of the year and potentially for album of the year because Logic does such a great job crafting his skits in the album, which is something that a lot of albums don't have, or a lot of albums don't pay attention to as much, or like having a story. Like he's literally telling a story through the skits throughout his songs on the album, and it all kind of connects. And it was incredible. But so that's my snub. But I realized, I think after listening to this album on this list, I decided I think this one is still my dub. I still think that it deserves to win, and I hope that it does. And that is Djesse Volume 4 by Jacob Collier. And I kind of hate to say it on like the podcast, but like I didn't really get into, I've heard Jacob Collier before, but his voice always kind of freaked me out because it's like he's got such like a bass quality that he still has even when he's going up to like falsetto. I think I heard one music review that called him a sleepy Rick Ashley. Which right? It was like, well, that's a little offensive, but whatever. And it's kind of true that is kind of what he sounds like. Like I can't deny it that much. So it was a little hard for me to get into his music, but the album itself and the instrumentation kept me in it through the whole time. And by the time I got to the end, I was like, his voice doesn't bother me at all anymore. So, because he first of all, it's like you can't even give this album a genre because he goes from like electronica to pop to R&B to old school. He has so many different genres on there, and he brings out the best in every single guest that he has. Like there's a lot of artists when they feature a song on their artist, they'll kind of make feature an artist on their song, they'll kind of make their song fit the style of the artist. For Jacob Collier, it's like the artist will fit the style of his music when they come on there. And I think the best example is Witness Me featuring Shawn Mendes. And Shawn Mendes sounds so incredibly good on that song. I'm like, if he had an entire album of songs that sounded like Witness Me,
Mhm.
I would be a shot. My Spotify rap would have Shawn Mendes at the top.
Mhm.
Like he made him sound right. He wasn't hiding him behind all these synths and things like that, which I feel like a lot of production does with Shawn Mendes' more popular music. It's like you got to hear the rich quality of his voice against these lush guitars. The entire album for me was incredible. There's a John Mayer solo on it where he plays guitar on a song that sounds amazing. There's a couple of songs where I will say that like he does a little bit too much, and it's like, okay, you can kind of like ease back, like rein it in a little bit. But overall, compared to all these albums, I think I have to give it Jacob Collier, simply for the musical quality and texture that he created.
Yeah, I haven't listened to all of it, but I've listened to you sent me some that you were like, definitely check these 3 songs out from the album and use it as like a litmus test if you'll enjoy the rest of it. And 2 of the 3 I was really vibing with and was really enjoying.
3.
So
All right.
I definitely will go back and listen to the rest of the album because yeah, it was I wasn't super familiar with Jacob Collier before, and so his voice did initially catch me off guard because I was not expecting such a deep and like intense and impassioned voice, especially in the range that you were discussing, like that he can perform in. I'm almost like intrigued, even if I didn't like it. I kind of am intrigued to see what else are you going to do with that voice, man?
Right.
Like, what can you do with that thing? Because that's impressive.
And I'm starting to realize now, like, as a guy whose voice never really dropped, like, I just kind of reached this point and it never really got lower. I'm like, maybe that was like an insecurity, like not like loving how deep his voice is, because I know my voice will never be that deep. I don't really know, but all I know is after listening to this album, I'm completely over it. I love it, and it should definitely be in the running for album of the year.
Awesome.
Nice.
All right, Ty.
All right.
Let us
So,
know.
for me, I'll get this one over quickly. Obviously, my album of the year was Brat because, yeah, it was. But I do want to say Cowboy Carter was definitely up there for me. And I
Okay.
do want to say that New Blue Sun, I'm glad to see it on here. I don't think it would ever win, but I just remember when it first came out how it was treated as a rap album because Andre 3000 is a rapper and there's not a single word in the album. It's just him playing the flute and very similar with Beyonce, with her not being played on country channels when she first came out, because like to what you were talking about, Kate, she had this legacy of being this pop icon, and then here she comes with a country album, but country stations don't want to play it. And so to have both of them represented for the genres that they're actually like for, and to be at the point of like the general album of the year, I'm just very happy to see them there. It's just Brat to me was like the perfect album. I just enjoyed it too much.
All right.
My snub, there were a few I just would love to give just a quick like shout out to that I really appreciate that I don't think I'll get a chance to mention
Go ahead,
elsewhere.
man.
I really loved Charm by Clairo this year.
Okay.
Very, very almost sleepy's not the right word. It's just very like relaxing, like cafe music that I really loved. Um Flight B 741 by King Gizzard and the Little Lizard Wizard, a rock group from Australia that I really love. Had an album this year that was really great. But my end, of course, Mid Spiral by Bad Bad Not Good
Yeah,
was just really
fantastic
great
one.
jazz that I loved. But my snub, and I don't know if it even really counts because I don't know the timing of when it released versus the cutoff. The New Sound by Jordy Greep, the singer the front man of what used to be Black Midi before they broke up earlier this year, released an album, and it is intense and almost like a spoken word poetry set to like heavily jazz influenced rock, and it feels epic in like an opera at times, and it feels like such a wide net of influence that he's pulling from. I loved Black Midi when they were together and how crazy uh, they would they would produce their music. It sounded unlike anything else I had listened to when I listened to them. And then I feel like for his first ever album after the band broke up, for him to still be making music that sounds different after I already kind of knew what to expect from what he did before was like even more mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
And so it's an album that it's not as easy listening to me, but it's definitely made me like rethink, okay, how do I even approach an artist? It like you can change the game, like, to me, but then you can still change it. Like, just because you do something very influential does not mean that you are out of gas and that you can continue to surprise. And, just to highlight that, I think we saw that with Beyonce as well. And I think I saw that with Andre 3000 as well. Just for me as the snub, I want to shout out a different genre that I just really appreciated. So I think
Absolutely love
great year for old artists doing new great things.
new things. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love to like hear these because I haven't listened to everything that you've mentioned. So I'm like, all right. Now I have like a whole.
I know. I'm like,
honestly,
these albums.
Honestly, that's the excuse of this podcast. It's just it's just people getting together to give music recommendations. That's the whole point.
I love it. I think for me, it would be, and I have to say before I say this, I am not like a diehard Beyonce fan. I like her voice fine. I know she's like phenomenally athletic as a vocalist and as a human being. But I think what she did in the Cowboy Carter album, I think she just displayed a diversity that is pretty unmatched on this list. Maybe somewhat in the Jacob Collier album, but it's like as somebody who trained as a classical vocalist, she has people out here being exposed to Caro Mio Ben that would never have been exposed to that. Like, you're never gonna like go deep dive into like Italian art song if you're not already in that like classical vocal world. So I think like the breadth of what she did to like surprise and delight, because it's either like innovation or mastery that captures me. And I think she displayed like innovation and mastery in the spread of what she did in that album. And of course, like lots of other amazing albums on this list. I mean, I don't listen to a ton of Chappell Roan, but I think the innovation that she did harkens back to like Annie Lennox Walking on Broken Glass or 8675309. Like she does like HOTTOGO. And one of these like spelled out songs that people just get hooked on. So I like maybe, I mean, I'm glad to see that one for sure on the list. Also, like, I don't think this is part of what we're doing, but I'm tired of seeing Taylor on these lists, man. I'm just like, why we gotta be so vanilla, man? Like, why? What are we doing? I'm just tired of seeing, hey, I'm gonna regurgitate the same chord progressions in the same way. Every now and then she throws in a production twist. And so much of her discography is, I'm the victim. This man, that man, this production agency, I want my masters back. And I appreciate her as a businesswoman and appreciate a lot of her like business acumen in the music industry space. But I am freaking tired of seeing her on these lists.
I mean, to be honest, we had considered reviewing the Tortured Poets department. And after we listened to it, it was kind of like, I feel like we'd only be reviewing this because Taylor Swift released it.
Right. Because of an orbit that she just has.
Because of name, it feels like Right. And like it's not like it's a bad album necessarily, but it's like it feels like it's here because she did it. Like if anyone else released this album, I feel like nobody would be paying attention to it. And
It's
that's
like
just
chicken it's like chicken without seasoning. It's not
Mhm.
offensive, but who
right.
wants to mainline in
Chicken
your
with
diet?
Right. If
Yeah.
you're starving to death, sure, you can eat the boiled chicken,
Right.
but no one is gonna who's gonna choose boiled chicken
But if you're
as
not,
their
hey,
meal.
I'm gonna need some seasoning on my chicken. Yeah.
So many people, there are so many people who are like in this McNugget mentality. And just
Mhm.
like we see with McDonald's, not to like call it back to food again, but like
Yeah.
McDonald's is in
Great
every
example.
country all over the world. Just because something is prolific doesn't mean it's high quality. Nobody's like, I can't wait to go eat at McDonald's in Japan. I mean, I'm sure there's someone who is, but just because it's prolific doesn't mean it's high quality.
Yeah. And I think it's disappointing as just like an industry in of itself that there's always gonna be just like, all right, there's gonna be a slot for next year for album that's just gonna be reserved for Taylor
Mhm.
or for song or for something. Just that and not even just Taylor, there's other artists like I feel about like Drake. I feel very similarly to Taylor Swift. Drake is to like the rap and hip
Yeah.
hop world
That's
of
who he
just
is.
like
Yeah.
there's always going to be a slot reserved for him regardless of what he makes, and it's just disappointing to see because you'd hope with like something like the Grammys it can be used to celebrate kind of like what you're talking about, Kate, something that's like innovative, or it's like someone brings something back in like a refreshing return to form that's like it's reminiscent of something that
Mhm.
we know, but you do it in a way that just breathes life into it again. And I don't get any of those feelings with anything that she does anymore.
So we all agree we're swapping out the Torture Post department for Ultra 85. That's the
Yeah.
consensus here. Just
Because the most insane thing she's done is date Travis Kelsey. And or like Drake, the most innovative thing that's happened with him is this like beef he has with Kendrick.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, nobody's winning a Grammy for an argument.
moving on, we'll head over to Song of the Year. And for this one, honestly, I have no snubs. I think we both kind of hit the nail on the head. I think for us, it's both Not Like Us, and also why it's that for me, and then you can
Mhm.
go for why you chose it as well. But like, so like I'm a try like for me, Record of the Year and Song of the Year, like most people look at those categories and are like, what's the difference? And I kind of agree, right? Like for me, like for a long time, I didn't understand what the difference is between Record of the Year and Song of the Year. And I think what I've, and I might be wrong, like this is just the way I conceptualize it. But to me, Record of the Year is about commercial appeal and it's about commercial appeal and range appeal, like broadcast appeal, like can it appeal to a lot of different audiences, a lot of different genres. You don't necessarily have to be able to move to it, but if you can, usually that's a huge plus, right? Like, and that's all important aspect of music because, like, while we do love music, it is a business. And that's where you can recognize a successful business that's a song. So, like, to me, that's how I express it. But for Song of the Year, to me, that's more songs that are more innovative for their musical style. Maybe they're doing something no one's doing, or they are have a message that's very powerful. So maybe not necessarily has that same commercial appeal, but allows you to recognize something for more of the artistic quality. Because in the music business, to me, you have music and business. So Record of the Year, I look at business wise. Music, Song of the Year, I look at music. And in this case, Not Like Us, Kendrick did both. He created a record with a message that completely annihilated his opponent in the biggest, and I think Not Like Us is like it represents everything that he did from the beef and the
Mhm.
impact of it. Because if we look at the start of the beef, on the same song where Drake says that he and J. Cole are as big as the Super Bowl, and that and that J. Cole said that Kendrick and Drake are on the big three. Kendrick not only went against that, but destroyed Drake. And now, guess who's actually as big as the Super Bowl? It's Kendrick, because he's hosting it in 2025. So,
Mhm.
like, to me, Not Like Us represents all of those things that he was just able to manifest just by being himself with all the lyricism and all the traits that he has. So to me, song of the year, no snub, not like us. That's my dub for sure.
Yeah, same. I didn't really have much of a snub when it came to this category because I think this is usually one that filters out a lot of like the biggest songs usually come out of or come up to the level of song of the year, but not like us. For me, it was something that number one, I really don't like Drake. I used to really like Drake when I was younger, and I don't like him nowadays for many reasons. But so it was really nice to see someone get like kind of praise for absolutely
Destroying him.
like destroying him
So
and
you weren't upset that they were beefing.
no, not at all. No, I thought it was very entertaining. But I also think it's so fascinating to me to see like a rap beef get to the point to where like my mom is asking me questions about it because they mentioned it on SNL. Like never has a rap beef gone out of the stratosphere that is like the rap world and had like really big ramifications to like the music industry like at large because now Drake and his team are suing, is it Universal?
Yep, because they say that the streams were artificially inflated.
Right, like this is going into courtrooms now. Like it was, and Not Like Us felt like a victory lap for it. Of the other songs on this list, obviously like Texas Hold'em is great. I really do enjoy Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish. I really like Eilish as a singer. She has a really, really awesome voice. It's really incredible. I love listening to almost anything that she'll put out. But for me, Not Like Us just felt like the event moment for me of this year. And no other song for as big and as far reaching felt like as much of an individual moment in and of itself.
I will definitely say this. Your mom asking you about the Kendrick and Drake beef, I did not have that on my bingo
On
card
your
for
bingo
this year.
card. Yeah, yeah.
That was unexpected.
That's the yeah.
But I think you're right. I think Not Like Us, it was an event. I think that's the best way to describe it. Like that song, out of all these songs, that song was an event. And I think that's why it's the dub for us. So
You know what? Maybe that should disqualify it though, because this is song of the year, not
Not
event of the year. Maybe it's
uh, so Kate, what do you have for your snubs and dubs on Song of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have a snub on this one. I really didn't deep dive too much into that portion of any category, I think. But I think for me it would have been the Shaboozey, and not because I love Shaboozey or like love the song. Um, but I'm kind of feeling into the cultural piece of what's going on. I don't know that I think Die with a Smile should even be on here, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Or the Fortnight one. I was kind of like "Meh," on both of those. I listened to them and I was like, I don't know. Um, but I think out of the context of the rap battle, I think there is a lot of cultural feeling behind They're Not Like Us. And I've seen that on social media. And it's interesting because it's taking something that's real in our world and kind of cementing it into the zeitgeist. And that can be good or bad. And I think it's interesting to see creators, apart from the beef and apart from everything else, utilize this piece of art in a way that kind of like divides. And not that's necessarily untrue, but pulls into sharper relief the divide between segments of the population. And so I think art should call us to look at reality in truthful ways, and it does that. But I'm not sure how helpful that is. I mean, it's definitely helpful for him in terms of now he's hosting the Super Bowl, and shows a lot of the things like what you're talking about, like his lyrical capacity and all these different things. So in contrast to that, I would say the Shaboozey, because he also takes a snapshot of, hey, here are some things that are going on in our world today in a very truthful way. Like his first lyrics in this are, my baby wants a Birkin. She's been telling me all night long, gasoline and groceries, the list goes on and on. So instead of saying, hey, there's this cultural divide and I'm going to lean into it and people are going to take this creative thing that I've made and use it in their own reiterations of art. And it's going to draw like a harsher, I don't know, like put into harsher relief the divide that actually exists.
Mhm.
The lyrics in the Shaboozey are like, hey, everything's screwed and we're all dealing with it together. And
It's
so
very
there's a
exciting.
piece
Yeah.
of like that unification where it's like it's catchy as hell. And also like it shows like the struggle and the realities of our world in a way where it's like, yeah, we're all dealing with this, but in a way that's like uniting instead of dividing.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's like, I love conflict, I'm not afraid of a fight, like I'm not afraid of talking about hard things. So I appreciate all of that about the Kendrick song. But I also wonder if it's unhelpful fuel at this moment in time. And that's just kind of a bigger consideration of like how art affects and interacts with our world.
Right.
So I don't think that's like what you should pick, song of the year on, but that's my like, if I was going to be pulled in one direction or another, as like you're now on the Grammy panel, that's kind of like my ethos with the artistic piece of that. So
Yeah, I like the consideration of that because that's a lot. It's very deep. And like I said, I really liked a bar song, and we'll see it a little bit later. Because like while I ended up going with Not Like Us for this category, a bar song got nominated in a few other categories, and so I ended up picking it for some of those. And so I think you're right, especially as far as like having a message, like its message is also tucked in really well into um a fun song, like you're not being beaten over the head with like a preaching message or anything like that. It's just kind of neatly tucked into this song that you can still enjoy and be like, yeah, gas prices are a little high right now. And I wish I could have a Birkin bag too. So I think that's a very good point. So
or
yeah.
like, hey, my neighbor's going through it also, as opposed to like my neighbor's not like me,
Yeah.
and it's like we get into a weird cultural moment when we're like the person next door is also struggling in this world, as opposed to like we're not like each other at all. And it's like, ooh, that's a tricky moment to live into.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, I really like that. Okay. All right. So now we can move on into Best New Artist. For this one, I don't have any snubs. Mine was kind of unexpected because I was going through all these artists and trying to decide. I ended up going with Teddy Swims. And the reason why I picked him, I mean, like I've been listening to Sabrina Carpenter for a long time, so she doesn't feel like a new artist to me. Like, I've been listening to her songs since like 4 or 5 years ago. But I think the reason why I picked Teddy Swims is because to me, he's the most consistent performer when it comes to live performances. Like if you've looked up any of his live performances, Teddy Swims, like the vocal control that he has, like he would be the kind of guy in the studio that's like one take. Like all of his songs, like he's one take and he kills it. And I listened to a couple of features that he had this year too. He did one with Lucky Day. He did one with Megan Trainor. And like my wife hates Megan Trainor, just does not like her voice at all. And that one song that he did with her, I think it's called Bad for Me. I snuck it onto a playlist we were listening to, and she was like, "Oh," she's like, "I really like this song." And I was like, "You're never gonna guess who did it." And she was like, "Who?" And she was like, "Meg." I was like, "Megan Trainor." She was like, "Why would you put that on here?" And then, and then she was like, "You know what? It can
I
stay."
love how strong her opinions are.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, and then she was like, "You know what? It can stay because Teddy Swims is on it." And it was like, because he really does make that song, like the harmonies and just the power within his voice. So I'm gonna start getting more into his music too, because I don't even think he released an album this year. I think it was just his single "Lose Control" that went, really, really viral. So yeah, to me, that's my best new artist, because again, to me, being able to perform live is a huge aspect for any artist, because any musician that's trying to make it, you got to be able to perform live. And so if you're asking me what makes someone the best artist, I would say whoever can consistently put on the best show live. And to me, Teddy Swims blows that category out of the water. So that's my dub. for Best New Artist.
Yeah, I similarly, I don't have any real snubs aside from maybe people in this own category. So like Doichi made it on here. She's a great up and coming rapper. Her album that she had this year, Alligator Bites Don't or Never Heal. She does this great like storytelling technique where she plays with this like this spoken word element in between rapping that is it's just so it's so captivating and it's so like story focused and in a medium that is really good at telling stories. I think she's doing a really great job at also making it sound fun and enjoyable to listen to. So she's blending those things in a really great way. Chappell Roan, every performance I have seen of her like live, like she goes all out. Like her fashion sense is like the character that she puts on when she is on stage is so mesmerizing that I can't like look away from the screen. And I'm so excited to see what else she will do as her career continues. But the moment that I saw Karungabin was on this list, it was like I had to choose them. I've been listening to them for like 5 or 6 years. I didn't even, to me, they are not a new artist. But I guess for some reason, this year they were kind of popping off a little bit within their own sphere. They're this great group out of Texas that like play heavily like Spanish and jazz infused music that's just really incredible. And I have fallen so deeply in love with some of their older albums that I like the second I saw them, I had to
No
that has
questions
to no
asked.
questions asked.
Yeah.
Like as much as I love some other artists on this list, I had to choose Karungabin because I think they should already be so much bigger than they are because they're so talented and they so clearly love the music they are putting on. Like it leads through with the artists they collaborate. The amount of artists that I have discovered from their collaborations, I'm very thankful for them because they've helped broaden my musical sense, and I think everyone should give them a shot.
All right, you're here first.
I love that. I love that. And don't you love it when somebody that you've been on for years finally like makes
Yeah,
it
get
and you're
some
like,
recognition.
It's so validating. It's like
Right.
I knew it. There was something there.
Mm-hmm.
that's so great.
No
I
worries.
think in this category, so I am not as familiar with Kruangbin or I don't even know. Your
Karungabin.
Karungabin, that's how they pronounce it.
I believe so. Hey, I could be saying it wrong. That's just over the years. That's what I've kind of developed to say. I could be saying it wrong.
So I'm not familiar with them, and I wish I were. I listened to a little bit of each of these. So I'm gonna have to go Chappell Rowan because I think, yeah, I love Teddy Swims. I've seen him live. If I were choosing who to listen to myself, it would be Teddy. But for best new artist, I've also been hip to Teddy for a while, so I'm like, I guess he doesn't feel as new to me.
Mhm.
But I feel like Chappell Roan has come on the scene in a massive, like, tidal wave of energy. Again, not necessarily the person that I would put on to listen to myself, even though I like her music. But I think her commitment to the vibe and her commitment to the music and the role and the whole bit is impressive. And she feels fresh. She feels like a brand new thing. Benson Boone is also phenomenal. I teach a lot of kids music and he comes up again and again. And I know he does like backflips and stuff on stage, like during his show and like
Okay.
while he sings. Because I like watch these videos that middle school girls take of like concerts at the Fillmore or whatever. They'll be like, "You'll never guess what I did Friday," and I'll like see it and hear it. And he has a phenomenal voice, and he really, I feel like he really gets deep into the emotional intelligence aspects that you sometimes don't see as in as stark of relief from like male artists. So I feel like he really like he does a cover of Dancing on My Own that's like really touching. But yeah, I'd have to go Chappell Roan. And I don't know that I really have a snub for this category. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. I don't really have one for them for this one either.
Yeah, there's no artists on that list that feel like bad inclusions. Like
Mhm.
I don't think there's
mm,
anyone there that I would necessarily feel unhappy at them receiving that award because they all feel like they kind of earn it in one way or
sure.
Although it is weird that I didn't see King Whale on here, but I guess it's probably just a typo or something like that.
Yeah.
They haven't collab yet. They don't know we're back.
Yeah, they haven't heard we're
Right.
back yet. Yeah,
Right.
Kate Bankston and King Whale for next
Oh
year.
yeah, can I change my record of the year to the King Whale and Kate Bankston collab?
So next up we have Producer of the Year. And this one, I don't really have any snubs for it either. I think we all kind of agreed to the consensus. Like, there's not really a lot of snubs. I picked Ernest DeMille. Well, the choices were Alicia Ernest DeMille, Ian Fickchunk, Mustard, and Daniel Negro. I probably butchered a lot of those names, so forgive me. Um, I was gonna go with Mustard because of Not Like Us. And then I was like, he did like three really good songs this year. And I'm like, I don't think that gives you the win there in that category. Like, if you look at all the songs, he's got like four, and everyone else has like almost 15 or 20. So I went with the Ernest DeMille. He was the producer for A Bar Song by Shaboozey, which I really love the instrumentation on that. He did a lot of work with Lucky Day this year. And he did Die with a Smile, which whether you like the song or not, it did become very popular, and it was enough to get Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga on it. And
Mm.
so there's something to be said for him producing those making those hits. So yeah, that was my category. Did you guys have anyone in particular for this one, or
I don't frankly even fully know the role of which a producer has in the quality of the song from my, as the consumer here,
yeah?
I don't really know what Ernest DeMille did to make bar songs great or not, like how much was
Mhm.
Shaboozey or not. So I defer to the panel.
Okay. The best way I could describe like a producer versus a songwriter is like a songwriter will like come like if you're looking at a chef, like a songwriter will come up with the ingredients and then a producer is the one who puts them together in the way that works. So like a songwriter might like write out the chords and the lyrics and stuff like that, and the producer is the one that's like, okay, I want like a Liverpool bass on this one, or no, let's switch that line, or let's use this guitar amp, or let's like he kind of fine tunes it to make it really work. Um, so yeah, so that's why Dear Ernest Mile kind of won that category for me, and I guess we're all in agreement. Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure, might as well.
very convincing.
Lastly, we have the Songwriter of the Year. Choices were Jesse Alexander, Amy Allen, Edgar Barrera, Jesse Joe Dillon, and Ray. And firstly, I will say I really did want to give it to Amy Allen, because I feel like female songwriters don't always get a lot of love in these categories. There's also not a lot of female producers out there. It's a very heavily male-dominated field. And realizing that she was the one who wrote Espresso made me really want to give it to her. But I ended up going with Ray, because Ray has this one song with Lucky Day called Paralyzed, which is absolutely gorgeous song. And she did some work with Hans Zimmer, which I think is it like to work with a composer that incredible and be able to have a songwriting credit on a song with Hans Zimmer, one of the most like influential composers. Any movie you've heard has his scores in it. I think that just deserves the win in and of itself. Like just being able to work with him and have a songwriting, like for him to be like, you're talented enough where you deserve a credit on this, to me is what helped gives her the win here. Do you
Mm.
guys have any thoughts on songwriter of the
Uh,
year?
those Sabrina Carpenter songs are really catchy, so I guess I'll say Amy Allen.
Go with Amy
Just
Allen.
because
Yeah.
for both Espresso and Please, 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 which are
Yeah. And she
very
did
catchy.
taste.
She did. Oh, did she? Oh,
Hmm.
okay. Then yeah,
Hmm.
that'd probably be my vote then.
Okay.
Yeah, as I look at the list, also like women in male dominated fields. I don't know if you've seen that trend on TikTok, the women in male dominated fields. It's pretty funny. If you ever decide to go down a rabbit hole, that's a pretty funny rabbit hole to go down. Um, So I love that as a trend, generally speaking. But yeah, when I like look at these, she doesn't look uneven in the amount of projects that she's worked on. I'm not a big country music consumer, so that's why like the guy at the top, Jesse Alexander, who has all these Luke Combs credits. I'm like, "Meh." I think Luke is there on the strength of his vocals and not the strength of the material in his. To be honest, it's like, and a truck and a beer got together one day. But but yeah, so when I'm especially like Leon Bridges is like deep and esoteric and she's got, big hitters on there like Olivia Rodrigo and Justin Timberlake. So yeah, I think I would go Amy Allen too. But that being said, I don't think I've listened to enough of everyone else's like CV on these credits. So
Yeah, I'd have to really do I wish I had enough time in the world to really do a deep dive and listen to all these songs. I just kind of have to go off of the ones that I've heard and the credits that we've seen. That's kind of what we're all doing because if we like did this for a living, like all we had to do was talk about Grammys, we would just listen to the songs over and over again, if we were like on the panel. Unfortunately, we're not yet.
Ever the optimist.
Well, that covers
Love
our first episode of Grammy Snubs and Dubs. So, Kate, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to chat with y'all.
Yeah,
we
it was
loved having you
absolutely
along.
amazing. Yeah. And we'll have to have you back again. Thank you guys for listening. And yeah, let us know your snubs and dubs in the comments and stay tuned for next time.
Until then.